Alrighty. Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to Trail Society, produced by our friends over at Feisty Media. I'm your host, Corinne Malcolm, and today's episode is brought to you by our incredible apparel partner, Rabbit, and I can't wait to sit down and chat and catch up with co-host Hillary Allen. Hillary, how are you?
Hey, I'm so good. I'm glad to be back stateside and catching up with you. We have some cool things to talk about today.
You've been everywhere over the last little bit of time. I feel like since we last spoke, you legit have been to Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, and now you're back home in Boulder because I recognize the room that you're recording in. So give us a little whirlwind play-by-play of what you got going on.
Yeah, so basically the first half, what are we in? First quarter of the year was pretty travel heavy. I had gone to New Zealand before, last year, and I absolutely loved it. But I wanted a different experience this time because I had done the miler. And after focusing on some like shorter stuff and like I had planned to do a road marathon, I was like, hey, like the 50K could be really fun to do. It's like a super fast course. Corinne, you did it the year I did the miler. But then before that, I've also wasn't able to ride my bike as much last year. And I have like a new bike sponsor and I wanted to do a gravel bike race. And there was one in Australia. So basically I went over post Houston Marathon, did a bike race in Australia, and then hopped on over to New Zealand to compete in Tarawera. So basically had a month to kind of put my trail legs back on, which is harder than you'd expect. But I had awesome times. I got to explore a new part of New Zealand that I hadn't been to. I got to run on the Hillary Trail, which is named after Sir Edmund Hillary from, he was really cool. He's from outside of Auckland and really big into stewardship and in like spreading, the love of trails and like getting outdoors for everyone. So that was cool to be on that. And then like see my name. I was like, what? And this guy next to it was like, that's not me. Just kidding. But it was actually very hilly-like because I ran the section of it, which was like 22 miles and it climbed like 6,700 feet. So it's perfect.
Not specific to the Tarawera 50K at all.
Absolutely not, but very specific to the type of adventures that make me super happy and coming back to the trails for more. So, and then Tarawera happened and it was like a complete mud fest. So everyone's times were probably like 20 minutes slower and maybe more, but it was I actually managed to get like a 50K PR, which was sick.
Dope.
And yeah, qualified for OCC. So I'm going to be doing OCC,
Hell yeah.
in August. And then rounded it all out. I'm sorry, this is so much information, but then rounded it all out with a team camp in Hawaii. We have normally done our team camps like in March, end of March in Seattle, which Corinne, I love Seattle. I would have loved the chance to visit you, but like Hawaii, come on.
I heard that it's because the influencers were going there and they were like this is inside baseball.
There was a little bit of this, like we were like looking across the room, like influencers, like what? So like they had, basically it's like separate worlds, but like worlds colliding. So they were like, in Hawaii doing their influencer stuff. And so then finally it was like, yeah, let's bring the trail team there. And yeah, so basically got to go. We had some really cool runs on the volcano, but basically I was going to come home after Tarawera. Like my trip was done. I'd already been gone for 4 weeks. But then I was like, okay, I don't want to like continue to pollute the universe and like fly home and then fly back. So I was like, I'm just going to stay. And so I basically camped for like 10 days in Hawaii, rode my bike a bunch, waited for my team to arrive, and then we ran all the trails.
That's amazing. You also, I feel like for people who don't know, one of the best ways to get to New Zealand from the US is actually to connect through Hawaii. And so I feel like it was a natural travel way to get to and from.
To break up the jet lag and come back home. Although I have been very jet lagged this week. But yeah, it was my first time in Maui. I did my longest bike ride, sustained climb from 0 feet to 10,000 feet, Mount Haleakala. And I attempted a sea to summit on foot. However, I don't think that trail has been has seen some trail traffic for like 5 years because there are way more fences than have been documented in previous attempts and a lot of bushwhacking. And I still think I have some scars permanently on my leg.
No.
From
But you're home now. You're home, and like Boulder will be spring eventually. I know you guys are in like fourth false winter or something. So
it snowed actually, so that was great. And I went skiing this morning. The snow's not great, but yeah, I mean, trying to make the most of it. But yeah,
it is. It is one of those things. I feel like I've been in your very Q1 travel heavy year. I've had a very slow non-travel Q1, which has been kind of awesome.
Is it nice?
It's so nice. Being home is wonderful. Some of that was like by choice. Some of that was like, well, I guess it's all by choice, but some of it was like more formal, like intentional being at home, which has been very, very nice. And my next trip is supposed to be going to Wales in May.
Remind me, Corinne, have you been there before?
I have not. This is a race I've wanted to do since Mike Jones helped to get this race off the ground years ago. I like knew him loosely through Solomon and through like skyrunning adjacent stuff, and he was getting this race off the ground, and I was like, this race sounds so sick. Like, I want to do it. A couple years ago, the race was acquired by UTMB. I was like, okay, let's see how this plays out. And then this year, I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is the year to go do it. Like, that'd be super fun. It's an early spring race that like times out with like some life stuff. And it sells out really quickly, so you got to be on it. I really, really, really want to go. I've made a lot of friends, like a lot of UK friends in the last like 2 to 3 years as well. And so I was like, this is such a cool opportunity to go spend time with people that like run in the UK and run in Wales and see a really beautiful area. And I've had friends do the race over the last couple of years who have loved it. They've had really good weather, mind you, but they've loved it.
And I've been to that region and I've run on part of the course. It's incredible. It's like
beautiful.
Yeah.
And so, but
very hard.
So after this race sells out, right, we find out this like a week ago, effectively. So one, they do a couple things. One, like all of a sudden there's spots open in the race, which is kind of weird because this race sold out like super, super quickly in September. So there's spots open in the race all of a sudden. They've also like suddenly put together an 80K that's super flat, and we're all like, okay, cool. Like maybe they just like need to like broaden some space in the race, and they don't have the ability to bring as many people through this zone that the 50K and 100 mile also hit. I know that there's land use agreement issues because it's a lot of like big private farms on parts of this. And like I've talked to the OG race directors about this. I know that that's a pinch point, but they always get it done every single year. They sell more spots. And then literally like the day after they sell spots in the sold out race, they announce the course. And this race is cool because it's like gnarly, burly. Like people sign up for it because it's really freaking hard. And I was like, I don't need to do the 100 mile with like 9,000 meters of climbing. Like, I feel like this 100K is great. It's got like, it's supposed to have over 6,000 meters of climbing, roughly 20,000 feet of climbing in 100K. Amazing. Like, it's a hiking, falling down the hills running race. Like, I love this. They released the course. It's not that at all. They've magicked away 2,000 meters of climbing. And now it's 100K with roughly 13,000 feet of climbing, which is, and I love Big Alta. I love Gorge. I love these races in the US. And I'm like,
but you don't want to,
but that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go do this race that had 20,000 feet of climbing. And so now I'm sitting here like, I don't even know if I'm going to go. And I need to make that decision probably in like the next week or two. So by the time this comes out, I'll hopefully have made my decision. And I'm not in a place where I can just go vacation. Is the issue?
Okay, I have an idea for you.
Okay. Well, what's your idea?
If you don't do the race, because I've done on part of this, like there's, the concept of the rounds, like the Ramsey round, the
totally beautiful
like the
stuff,
round. There's a round there that goes and links a lot of those peaks there. So you could, if you don't want to do the race, you could just do that and set the FKT.
I think it's called the Patty Buckley round, and it's really cool.
So yeah, it's gnarly.
But again, this is kind of like a business trip in the sense that like I want a UTMB qualifier. I want
totally. I mean, I know
to
there's
do this
more
thing.
Than that.
Like Steven can't travel with me. Like
you need a crew.
It's a week of like getting like dog care lined up. Like it's not like a vacation. Like I'd be going with some. I'd be linking in with like. Well, I mean, it can be right. Like Esther and I went to Tarawera. That was definitely a vacation last year. But when I'm like leaving home and I'm like taking time off of work and I am doing these things, like part of this is like business and part of this is like doing it to have fun. And this race is more of a business trip than like I'm going there to go to Wales trip, unfortunately. And the course is important in that. And so yeah, I'd love to go there at some point in time, and like maybe I go back and I run a totally different race by local organizers, by like be like Steven can come with me, we can go hang out. Like that sounds fun to me. But going and doing a race where like now the back 40K, the back marathon of the course is basically flat.
Yikes.
I'm like, that does not sound that fun to me. And so I have signed up tentatively for Monte Rosa by UTMB in July. So I like didn't learn my lesson. I'm like still signed up for a UTMB race, but it's because I want to do UTMB eventually.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? They can't make this course flat. Aosta Valley, Courmayeur, you can't flatten it. There's nothing you can do to take out vert. You can't flatten it. And so I signed up for the 120K, which does have 9,000 meters of climbing.
Woof.
So and I want to do Tour someday as well. I really want to do Tour de Jean, and so it's on part of that course. And so for me, it's like that ticks all the boxes. And so I haven't decided if I'm bailing on Wales yet or not, but I did sign up for a race in July that I'm really excited about, and so hopefully that
very cool
goes smoothly. And maybe I race like Sun Mountain 50K here at home. Like that would be also delightful. So I've got stuff that I can do locally that doesn't like necessitate a huge international trip in just a couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
We'll see. I'm making it do. But that's what's going on in my neck of the woods.
I love it.
So happy. Speaking of happier things, we've been teasing this on a couple pods now. We did get a sneak peek at like actual samples of our rabbit collab. And I think it's going to launch end of April, which is really exciting. Like we are 6 weeks or something out, 7 weeks out maybe from it launching, which is a big deal. It's beautiful. It's fun. It's bright. It is recognizable. Are there any other feelings you have about the collab that we can tease?
Colorful. I love it. I don't know. It's just, it's like, it makes me, when I see it, I'm like, ooh, I want to wear that.
Makes me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. We were talking on the last pod about like new colors that have come out with stuff this spring in general. Things really excited about. I got a pair of the Venture shorts, which is the Ethan Newberry Kim
with all the pockets.
collab with all the pockets, and including like an integrated soft flask booty pocket basically at this angle across the glute. I have not gotten to try them fully loaded yet. I think that might be happening on Thursday or Friday this week, but I got them. And I'm also skeptical about like shorts that are like shorter than 4 inches. And this one is at 4 inches. And it's like, I'm curious to see how it feels with a bunch of stuff in it, but they're really cool and they fit great. So got that. And then I also got, because it's sitting in my office, because everyone needs another crew neck, because Steven told me if a sweater comes in, a sweater has to go out. Like, okay, this is a podcast, so obviously you guys can't see this crew neck, but it's like this really beautiful, like red, mauve, like maroony color. It's really beautiful. It's not like fire engine red or anything, but it's like this kind of heathered, mauvey, maroony red, and it's really pretty. And I don't have anything that's this color.
And for me, like when it snowed, I was able to wear, I forget what this is, but it's basically just like a nice little pullover jacket. It's got some little fleece around the collar to keep your neck all warm. And it's kind of like windbreaker material, but it's like a nice, I don't know. I just really like it. It's like a nice layer. It's got some really nice vent pockets. Speaking of fire engine red, but it's red and blue. And I also, was back at altitude, back in the dry climate. Got a bloody nose on this run. So there's a little bit of blood speckle on it. Need to wash it, but it's okay.
Blood, snot, totally normal.
Might wear it one more time before I do.
I was showing you. This is for the YouTube podcast listeners who can't hear this. I'm also wearing the Easy joggers right now, which is a thing I live in. Basically, anything in the Easy line is high on my bucket list. I got a pair of your favorite shorts. Is it the Float and Fly?
Yeah, I got a pair of yellow ones.
I got the same pair.
They're so cool. I know I have one in like all the colors now. Yellow, bright blue, other light blue that's muted, bright pink, black.
Yeah. I saw the yellow and I said, ooh, Hilly's going to love this pair. And then I got it for myself. So basically, there's a lot of fun stuff out right now, and your wardrobe should be fun. It should be. I read a post by Lee Glanford this morning. She runs this really, really cool fashion Substack, running fashion Substack, sports fashion Substack. And she called it color maxing. And I'm like, ooh, I can be really into color maxing. I don't need to be in neutrals all the time. And I feel like if anything, our collab with Rabbit coming out is by definition color maxing. So while you wait for that to come out, you should hop on over to runninrabbit.com and use the code TSMarch for 10% off your order. Again, runninrabbit.com, and the code for March is TSMarch for 10% off. I wanted to do a Women's History Month / International Women's Day shout out. You mentioned being super freaking jet lagged. I was laughing out loud. It was like an Instagram reel or something that someone sent me. And it is the fact that we sprung ahead in the US for daylight savings time. We sprung ahead. And so International Women's Day only was 23 hours long. And the girl in the video is like, yeah, it makes sense because we're only paid 83 cents on the dollar. Like our day can't even be 24 hours. It's only 23 hours. So I got a huge kick out of that. But I just wanted to I wrote some stuff down. I was reading a bunch of stuff online about this, and effectively it's there's a lot going on. There's a lot of media campaigns and brand marketing campaigns and special sales, and it just kind of, I think, washes over the tumult of the last century plus for women. And from an intersectional lens, there's a lot to unpack there, and we're not going to dive into it super deep, but just kind of wanted to at least acknowledge the fact that we all have our biases, and even when we look at history, we can be really, really biased. It's easy to overlook certain facts that are really important. And so a couple things that I wanted to pull out was that we think about the early 1900s, which is not like the 1990s kids, Gen Zs that are listening to this. I don't think we have that many Gen Z listeners, but if you are, I was born in 1990. I was born in the 1900s. It's okay. But in 1908, there's a lot of tumult within the women's equity and equality movement, really trying to push for women's voting rights, etc. By 1920, they finally passed the 19th Amendment, granting women the right to vote. But that wasn't all women. That was white women. And it took years and years and years and years, decades, for Native American women, for Black women, for Asian women, for Indian women to be able to exercise their right to vote. And so it's really easy to focus on historical milestones while ignoring that took a long time to even assess it all. And there are still barriers, and we're in a place in time right now where we are trying to add barriers back in to voting, which will largely impact women, will largely impact women of color. And so we got to stay on top of it. History is and will continue to repeat itself. And so being really vigilant when it comes to that. I think it's also really critical to recognize that even within the women's community, there's a lot of different experiences based on identities, race, ethnicity, ability, disability, national origin, sexual orientation, religion, class, and so much more. And that I know for me personally, it's been really, really important to try to always kind of refocus on that intersectional lens of I can talk about the white women's experience, but I don't understand and will never understand the experience of someone else, of an Indigenous woman, of a Black or brown woman, of an Asian woman. But I can try, and I can listen, and I can not just gloss my little bubble over, which would be really easy to do. And in that same vein, it's women's history includes trans women. And I think that's continually important to say, because it's really easy to erase people in the current climate. And trans women are a group of people that are definitely constantly fighting erasure. And then I think my last thing about Women's History Month and Women's International Women's Day, blah, 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 so jargony, is that women aren't empty slogans, that we're not social media posts, that we're not niche, and that women should be celebrated more than every March or more than every first Sunday of March, whatever it is, that we should celebrate women all year long. And that is my soapbox for today, I think.
It's a great soapbox, Corinne. You always continue to just say it so eloquently. So yeah.
It's the molehill I'm willing to die on,
I'll be there. I'll be right there with you.
Yeah. And it's so much more than a molehill, but that's still my favorite, mess up the quote thing.
Yeah.
But so I just wanted to say that before we dive into our topic for today, which is, I think, a continual celebration actually of women performing at the
Totally.
highest level. This will come out, I think, technically right after the Paralympics are over. They're actively happening right now while we're recording. Friend of the pod, Danny Arovich, is actively throwing down. Her post from today was like, I think I'm the happiest sixth place finisher ever. Like, was in medal contention, missed a shot. Like, that's all, that's what happens. And so
Yeah.
I think that was like it's very cool to watch these athletes absolutely throw down in like horrible spring conditions. They've had to modify courses for safety reasons, but at the same time, like, I don't know, maybe they shouldn't be competing in March anymore when seasonability is not making that very practical. So thinking about all those athletes. And then I sent you an Instagram post and I was like, I have a topic for us for our next podcast. And it was Steve Magnus. And then you can list off all the amazing books that Steve has touched and Brad Stuhlberg has touched and all these amazing like brains that think about like sports psych and performance psychology and all that kind of stuff, because I think there's so much good reading out there for people and listening. I know that Steve and Brad in particular have a great podcast. But his post specifically was examining a short track speed skater and their Olympic performance. And it got us thinking about, okay, like, how can we look at what happened at the Olympics and our current body of literature and what we know and what you're studying actively in school, and assess kind of the performance coaching, mental performance coaching, psychology of what happens on the world's biggest stage, because we can take that information into the 50K you're running or your first ever trail marathon or whatever it might be, because it turns out our brains are crazy and they are on hyperdrive all the time. So I'm wondering, when I slid into your DMs and I said, hey, what do you think? What did you think of this topic idea?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I was like, did Corinne read my mind? Because there had been so many like stories kind of popping up over the Olympics, and like it's been a topic in my classes of like these different themes and kind of using these Olympic stories as examples. Because then oftentimes, I mean, we look to, the gold standard of sport, and that is Olympians, like high performers, high achievers, right? And like, what can we learn from this so-and-so like expert in sport, right? And, but they're people, they're not perfect. And they like, I think what we forget is like this mentality that we either have it or we don't, but it's really a skill that we can learn and practice and develop over time. And even champions, like they haven't always remained there. And so I loved the topic. I literally felt like you read my mind, because I was like, that was like something I was hoping to do anyway. So like it fit perfectly from this other story that I wanted to fit in and like talk about some of the, like the pieces, like the mental performance pieces of like what's kind of going on underneath it all.
Yeah. So when I saw this, and then it was really funny when I was like, okay, Hillary, you pick a story too. And it was this idea of like, and then I was reading through all your notes and I was like, wow, like these are two different outcomes from like a very similar, like we can see how you end up in either side of this. And so the athlete that Steve Magnus highlighted was this woman, Corinne Stoddard, who, again, short track speed skater, comes into the Olympics ranked second in the world. Like, she is really freaking good at her sport. At the Olympics, you're like, okay, like no brainer, medal contender, like medal favorite. And she finishes 8th. And then she finishes 24th. She's involved in a bunch of really bad falls early in the Olympics too. And then she finishes 31st, and she writes like publicly that she's like, quote, I'm embarrassed by how much I've choked on the Olympic stage over and over again. She ultimately had one event left. In her final event of the Olympics, she gets a bronze medal by like the skin of her teeth, probably technically the edge of her toe pick or the front of her like thumb or whatever they punch forward.
Exactly. I don't even know.
So I'm like, we'd consider like what she was experiencing choking. She identifies it as choking. But I'm wondering, like, in this sense, like, have you ever been in a position or have you ever felt this when it comes to athletic competition, showing up on a given day? Because it's kind of like, oh yeah, do you choke or you clutch? And it's like, I think we're probably both all the time, but like, where do you end up on this? Have you experienced this sensation?
Right. Yeah. And I think it's like this fearful state, because it's like if you're like choking, it's like, oh my gosh, how do I get out of this? Like, can I get out of this? It's like you almost feel it's like
the yips.
You're like afraid of choking because it's like this, you're going to be stuck in this thing forever. Well, it's not the case. Or it's like if you're in like the clutch state, like that's also takes practice. So for sure, I've been in this before, where I feel like I was really struggling with some like injuries, like before my ankle surgery, and like just reaching this point mentally where I was just like, I would get in my head if I wasn't in the right position. And then it was almost like, it's like kind of like self-sabotaging maybe, or just like like choosing to like not believe in myself or belittle myself. And then it would just obviously like decrease the performance and I would do worse. And so, yeah, absolutely. I've been there like multiple times.
Yeah. I was thinking about this. So I competed in the sport of biathlon for a long time. And I don't know. I've seen it happen on like the biggest stage. People are leading. They come into the final shooting stage and they like cannot hit the inside of a barn. Like they can't hit the barn from the inside. Like all of a sudden, it's like they've never shot a gun before. And I don't know that I've experienced that, but I've definitely experienced those sensations where you're like, ooh, this could be it. This could be my breakthrough. This could happen. And then you like miss the first two shots. And you have to almost get out of your system, and then you like hit the next three. This kind of like, and then once that happens, it's like, okay, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. And I can think about like being at European Championships as like a first time really racing in Europe, and having like had like a really good performance in the sprint race the day before, like got on the podium, like like an amazing day for me. Like was skiing really, really well all season, but hadn't put together shooting like that, and did. And then we got into the pursuit race the next day, and I was just like going backwards the whole time. Probably because I like had outperformed my current level of skill the day before. But I ended up getting pulled off the course because I was cramping. But I think it was like largely psychosomatic, in which I like was going backwards. I was just like floundering. And I was like probably just like having like a panic attack, and like had like a psychosomatic response where I was like, physiologically, the only way I can stop this race is if there's something medically wrong with me. And that was cramping. And it was like, I don't know, in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, no, that was like 99% in my head. And it's one of those things that you oftentimes only recognize in hindsight. And it was this moment of like, there was pressure, and I just like wasn't ready for the pressure, which is like, it takes practice. So I'm wondering, like, in those moments, what's happening in the brain when we are underperforming our expectations or our perceived level or our actual level.
Right. So like anything with any feeling, there's some like physiology that's happening in tandem with the physical feelings that you're feeling. Right. So like first, when we feel like when in the brain, when you're underperforming, right, you feel self-conscious, right? I mean, I think all of us have maybe experienced this of like when pressure happens, you're getting nervous. It could be for a sporting event or like getting up on stage. You feel like, oh my gosh, everyone's watching me. Like, so you get self-consciousness increases. And then our error monitoring systems go into overdrive. So it's like self-critical. Like you feel like, like you're very hyper aware of all the mistakes that you're making. So, and basically threat perception rises. So it's like, maybe have you ever been in a race and then like someone says something to you, like maybe Steven, and like you're just like, excuse me, like he's like, it's like, you're like, this is like the taper tantrums. Like someone says like, how are you today? And you're like,
excuse me?
Excuse me, I'm fine. Don't I look fine? You know what I mean? It's like everything's a threat. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're just kind of stressed out. So you're feeling all of these things. And then, but basically the neuroscience is kind of like in tandem. So what's actually happening in your body, you're not just making this up in your head. It shows that the prefrontal cortex becomes hyperactive under pressure. So this is like, we're doing a lot of the thinking and the processing. And then over-control disrupts like automatic motor patterns. So it's like you feel like you might have to be just put a little bit more thought into something that seemed a little bit automatic. Like I remember this in tennis where you have like that muscle memory, right? Like our brain memory. But then all of a sudden I'd get nervous and something would be tight. And I felt like I had to like really focus on like telling myself what to do for my stroke. Those times when you forget how to run.
I mean, this is biathlon through and through, where it's like the shooting, like it's combining two sports, right? It's combining, and in Corinne Stoddard's example, obviously it's speed skating and it's like tactics and minute movements on the ice because they are like in these short controlled little patterns. Same like in biathlon, it's this idea of like there's the physical part, which is like generally the skiing. And then it's like when you come into the range, you're like a different person. You're supposed to be a different person, a different athlete effectively. And it's like you practice repetition. Skimo, great event, like too, right? Where it's like in biathlon, you do what's called dry firing a lot, like 15 to 30 minutes a day, most days a week. And that's outside of your like other shooting practices, either like normal live fire, single shot drills or like combos where you're skiing or working out in tandem with shooting. All you're doing is practicing like getting like into position and taking a single shot, and you're not shooting live rounds. It's like you're staring at a dot on the wall in your house. And you do that over and over and over and over again. You do a ton of single shot drills where you like get down, take one shot, get up off the mat, like over and over and over again with live fire. Skimo, they're like in their living rooms, like on a mat, just practicing over and over and over again, ripping their skins or locking their heel piece or hooking their moving from skis from on the ground to on their backpack to back on. Like it's this repetition so that when you get into this competitive place, you no longer have to think at all. And you're just like defaulting to the skill that you've trained.
Right.
And all of a sudden, your body can't do that anymore when you're in this state.
And it's basically effectively what choking is. It's too much conscious control because there's a little bit of that, like where we practice it so much that it becomes automatic. Like that's what we want to rely upon as like, you know, basically the best of the best in your sport. So too much conscious control, basically we're overthinking. And then too much self-evaluation or being too self-critical, right? There's a lot of things in sport. I remember this, of course, I started my journey in tennis. I think the best, like Roger Federer, like one of the best all-time players. Do you know how many points that he won? Like, you know, for all of his career, he has so many Grand Slams. He was the world's number one for I don't even know how long. He won 53% of his points.
Crazy.
So it's like, so those kinds of things, like you have to have in any professional sport, the resiliency to be able to be like, okay, I made a mistake. This was imperfect. Let's move forward. Let's keep on attacking, whether in training, practice, or competition. So too much self-evaluation gets in the way. And then the third thing is too much of a threat focus. You feel like everyone is out to get you or like everything is out to get you, particular on the trails. So those three things can lead to choking. And I think it can happen, you know, like it can happen to anyone, but basically how we get through this is you're aware of it and then figuring out how to practice dealing with those things when they come up, tamping them down, and then learning how to work through it.
I think it's super interesting because we talk about like training races with athletes, and it's like sometimes you have to like convince them to do a training race because one, it's expensive. Two, it's like maybe you're not that into it, doesn't work in the schedule, whatever it is. Like those are all very real reasons, but it's like this idea coming out of Corinne Stoddard's example was that it's just like telling yourself it's just another race doesn't generally work because it's the brain knows it's not. And I think of this all the time with athletes where I'm like, practice races are great because even if you tell yourself you're super chill and it doesn't matter, like you're probably going to poop like 4 times before the race start. And like eating breakfast that morning is going to kind of feel off like it normally does on big race morning. And it's like, I'm always like, if something's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong when you pin that bib on. And it's like, we can do a 6-hour training run, but it's not the same as a practice race. And that I feel like is this in summary. She also goes on to say, like, I'm embarrassed by how much I choked. And so it's really important, I think, to cue into, like, why the emotion of embarrassment is so powerful. And then, like, how do we deal with that?
Yeah. So I think with that, like, this is a lot of that I've worked on, especially even with new athletes that, and, like, working on mental performance. We struggle a lot with, like, identity outside of sport and also like the internal drivers, like why do you want to do sport? And a lot of times I think it's so closely tied with how they're perceived externally or how they're like how they finish in a race, which is all tied to external things which we can't control. So really trying to like look inward, why do I want to do sport? And knowing that you as an athlete is like you are more than just the sport, you are more than just the competition, the winning, the trophy, everything. So I think the reason why there's so much emotion attachment and embarrassment is because there's so much identity tied up into sport, especially at that level. And it seems counterintuitive, but a lot of the research that I've been reading shows that prevents burnout. It's there's more longevity in sport. There's more higher levels of success in sport. The better a person's self-identity is not contained solely within sport. Saying that they have other things that make them feel like a whole person, and the people in their lives, like their coaches, their significant relationships in their lives, value those things in them more than just their performance as an athlete. And so, but I think that's really hard, especially, at the Olympic level, if you're paid and it's your job, but still it's like, obviously Corinne was feeling that. And so, but I think being able to have that separation allows you to kind of surpass these levels, to break into that next level of performance. So it's having these two things that seem conflicting.
Yeah. So say you have an athlete and they are in this negative spiral, and maybe it's because they DNF'd, right? They've tried to do, let's say they've tried to do Leadville, right? They've tried to do Leadville a couple times even, right? And they just haven't cracked the code. They've gotten timed out. They've gotten hurt. They've had to withdraw for whatever reason. And they need to get this thing off their back. They need to finish it, but they are deep in this spiral of couldn't do it last time. How am I gonna do it this time? They're deep in that embarrassment and they're entrenched in it. How do you break them out of that, from the mental performance side?
Right. So I'll give a few things just because I don't want to have a laundry list. But you guys can always, DM us if you want more info if these things aren't working. But I think the biggest thing is, first and foremost, being aware. We want to practice that, being aware of are you going into a spiral? Are we starting and what does that mean? Oftentimes I think it means that our focus shifts from catastrophizing, from internal to external, wondering about oh my gosh, if I'm feeling bad now, how am I going to make it to the end? Or, or self-talk, right? Self-talk starts to become negative. And so I think it starts with awareness. And then once you're kind of aware of the problem, then the next thing you can do is try to focus on simple things that are shifting your attention. So if you're focused too much on the long term, what this is going to be, try to shift into the moment and say, okay, well, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I'm going to focus on getting to the next aid station. I'm going to focus on eating my snack in the next 30 minutes. So things that are digestible chunks to kind of get you through the hard moment. And then the second thing with self-talk is this is so incredibly important, is to try to even just have one phrase that you can carry with you that reinforces a positive strength that you possess. To focus on something that you're good at and that that you can do. So for me, it's in a race, it's I know I can have the endurance to keep going. So it's one step at a time. Or it's uphill running. I'm okay, just get into your rhythm. I say that to myself. Or if it's you're focusing externally, focus on you. I think some really powerful statements of self-talk, they're I am statements, and they're motivational. So you kind of have to try some on that work for you. But I think that those two things can kind of help with that scattered feeling of the attentional focus. And then the self-compassion piece, right? And then the last thing, I also ask myself this threat. So really identifying, asking myself, okay, is this a challenge or is this a threat? Am I threatened physically for my, life, safety? That could happen, but it's less likely. Or is this really a challenge? And when I think about a challenge, I'm oh, it's a challenge. That means I get to rise to the occasion and see if I can problem solve and work through it. The challenge has if I look at it in that way, it just is reframed in an opportunity as opposed to this hard stop.
Yeah. I like it. I think those are great, practical takeaways for people to practice with, and finding that mantra, that thing that works for you is okay, yeah, this is hard, but that's okay. But what if I tried? But what if it all works out? That, that ability to keep going. I love that we're pairing this with what feels like the opposite end of the spectrum. And the story that you picked was Alysa Liu, who obviously rocked all of our worlds with her gold medal finish in the women's figure skating competition. But I love that it gets to highlight this totally opposite end of this performance theme, where she probably had some of what Corinne Stoddard had, you know, 4, 6, 7 years ago as like a really young skater, and now is, you know, in this different place that I think a lot of us can see as a shining light, a different take on what elite competition is. And I wish that our sport had more artistry, maybe, because I'm like, oh, it's just a performance. I love this. So tell us, I guess, why you wanted to highlight Alysa Liu's gold medal performance.
Yeah, I fell in love with her story. So for those of you who don't know, so she retired. She's a figure skater. She's a gold medalist now. She retired at 16 years old after basically years of elite training, pressure. I mean, figure skaters start really young. But she returned to sport on her own terms, like a few years later. And with her goal was like to go win the Olympic gold. And what made her story just like resonate with me so much was just how much joy she had with competing, that she made a pact with herself that she wasn't going to actually compete or return to sport unless she was having fun. And I think like that's what it's all about anyways. And so, but it was like her raw celebration. Like you could just tell when you watched her performance, she was having so much fun. And like when she finished, she was like, that's what I'm effing talking about. And that was so much fun. And like, it was just amazing. And she's like, obviously she loves working hard. But she also like loves the struggle. She's like, but she had this quote, like, I love struggling. It makes me feel alive. But then she just competes with so much joy. And I think we all had so much to learn from that.
Yeah. And like, just a note, like as a 16-year-old, she like had landed a quad. She, I think her life was pretty restrictive. She's the oldest of 5 children. Her dad invested a ton of financial resources into figure skating being this passion for her and this thing that she was really good at, really quickly. But when she came back to sport, it was about like doing it her way. And her dad is still very supportive, but it like needed to be on her terms. And like the interviews with her coaches are also amazing because they're like, oh yeah, no, like Alysa has a say in everything we do. And that has been really, really important for them. And you bring up this idea of self-determination theory, and I'm really curious what that is.
Yeah. So basically, okay, this is like the cornerstone of mental performance and the psychology of excellence. Basically, it's this foundational framework, and there's like basically for people to achieve personal excellence in anything, but especially in sport, it's kind of broken down into 3 categories of autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So autonomy, that means having control over your own destiny, basically having autonomy, being able to do something for yourself. And competence is just being good at something, like feeling that you're actually, and this is your own perception of you being good at something yourself, not someone else's perception. And relatedness is effectively community. So your ability to like share this and be supported by your community members, the people that mean the most to you. So 3 things, and we can be excellent. Feeling that we're competent at something, contributing something, feeling that we have control over our own, destiny, success, and then community, people. And basically, the more that people have these 3 things, the higher their intrinsic motivation, their engagement, their general well-being. This is basically work by 2 scientists that was published in the 80s. And now it's like kind of applied from everything from sport to, CEOs and everything in between.
I love it so much. And it reminds me of like the quotes that I remember hearing in high school where it was like, oh, a talented athlete and a motivated athlete, like that's a deadly combo. This idea being that like if you have like high self-determination, if you possess these kind of 3 traits and attributes, your motivation is high, and you combine that with like being talented potentially at baseline, that's your Olympic champion. Like that's like the highest excellence maybe. And I'm just curious when we think of, motivation and how our brains operate and that like effort versus reward system. Like, what does that mean in practice? What does that look like from a neuroscience standpoint?
Yeah. So typically I think we think that like effort and reward, or like they're different pathways, right? But they're actually very much connected. Like, because oftentimes like when you put in a lot of effort to something, regardless of if you win or lose, you're still getting a lot of that like reward afterwards. So that you can't really like, distinguish the two. I mean, it's like if we talk about like mood versus like reward, which is, like dopamine versus, mood, which is more serotonin, but all these pathways are related, right? There's sometimes different neurochemicals, but they're oftentimes being, released at similar times, right? And so, but basically, and this is something we train coaches as coaches all the time of like train by effort. And like, basically being proud of that effort is something that I can rely upon in a competition, like checking my effort. Am I giving full 100% effort into this thing, which sometimes is physical, but it's a lot of like mental and, motivational and all of these things. I mean, we'll go back on our other podcast about allostatic load. Like there's a lot of things that can kind of contribute to this effort thing. And it's all like closely tied in together to the same kind of neural circuitry that reinforce these pathways, positively or negatively, right? In our perception.
So interesting because like ultra running might be like the ultimate test of this in some way where there's like no guarantee of an outcome and it's like, is the effort worth it? Like, who knows? We'll keep figuring it out.
It's true, but like the conversation we just had at the beginning of this, like your motivation to do the race, like in Stodonia, it's based off of like whether you deem it worth it or not to finish this thing. And as athletes, like we're constantly doing that. Like is sacrificing whatever, X, Y, and Z worth it for the Olympic gold? Well, to Alysa Wu, sacrificing joy and all of these other things was not something that was worth it for her. So therefore, the reward, this gold medal, it's mismatched, right? So it's also basically, this is also kind of the reason I liked her story is basically figuring out what motivates an athlete and having that being incorporated into the group of coaches that are around you and your support network so that you guys can all go all in because what motivates someone isn't what's going to motivate someone else or like deem this worthy of, putting in the effort.
Well, it's like that idea too of like, I am an athlete who needs something on my calendar in order to like keep the drive high to train. Cause there are days where it's like training is hard. This will come out, I think, again, after the Danny Arovich episode. She's like, I love racing. I hate training. Like, I train because I have to. Like, I don't like that at all. And I was like, that's crazy because I feel like so many ultra runners are the opposite, where it's like we really love training and racing is this thing that we do to make our training make sense. But I'm also in the same vein, I'm a person who likes to have something on the calendar to like hold me accountable. It's like it makes the like effort worth it, that valuation of the effort on like a daily basis more worth it to me. I'm more sensitive to being like, oh, I've got this thing coming up and I like want to do X, Y. I need to check the boxes to get there.
Right. Totally. And that I think so it's really important is like there's some, there's basically some science and neuroscience, like research studies that are measuring this. But again, the purpose of us talking about this is okay, like re-emphasizing that you need to find that what works for you. So then communicate it to your coach. So you guys can like incorporate that weekly, monthly, like in order to kind of maintain that motivation.
Yeah.
And to kind of continue dangling that carrot.
We were joking before we hit record that I'm Ron Burgundy and I will read whatever's on the teleprompter. And I like just checked myself and I was like, oh, I wrote like a nonsense question about outcome versus performance, which are the same thing in a way, versus process versus outcome is what I meant. And so I'm wondering, like, how does this fit into that kind of framework that I think many of us are familiar with now, where we are told anyway that we need to focus on our process-oriented goals over our outcome or performance-oriented goals. Like that is better for us. What does that mean in this context, though? Like, is that, like, in my mind, yes, that is important because you have to be into what you're doing, which is the process, versus hoping that what you're doing works out, which would be the outcome.
Yeah. So Okay, so first and foremost, like obviously winning matters, right? Like we're talking about an Olympic gold medalist, like winning matters.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like doing well, like we're, like we've competed at high levels for many years, like both been professional athletes, like currently, and so it's like it matters, like doing well matters. But the point of this is that if that is the only thing that an athlete associates reward with, that leads to burnout, and that leads to maybe a truncated version of an athletic history and career. So I'm not trying to negate the importance of, like, and everything should be based off of efforts. We need to take away the Olympics and medals and blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, though, is that in order to have a long relationship with sport and to probably get the most out of yourself as an athlete, whether that's an Olympian or an age grouper or someone who's a complete beginner and just trying to get in, just trying to learn how to run or, learn a new sport, the more that we can figure out these internal motivators that have everything to do with the day-to-day process, what keeps us motivated to kind of go out there and continue to do the hard work, focus on the fun and the enjoyment of doing the hard things day in and day out. The more that we can focus and find the things that give us that reward and motivation, the better we're going to be off long term. And a welcome side effect, the happier you are and the more motivated you are, is you'll win. And sure, there's going to be people that maybe are completely focused on the external and like what, the research shows is maybe not the best recipe for long-term success. Of course, those people are going to win too. But we're talking about, that's maybe a minority, and they might have a shorter lifespan in sport. So,
okay, so this is a tangent, but I think it's pertinent. So there was like this conversation around Jeff Browning was on Dylan Bowman's podcast, and he was talking about longevity and how he thinks that people are burning the match too hot nowadays, and the careers are going to be way, way shorter. Jeff Browning's had a very long career in ultra running. And I think they like skipped over the fact that like people are fueling their efforts way better than they used to. And that I think is overlooked. They called it like over racing. And I was like, well, it might've been over racing, but it was also like you guys also did that on like no food or nutrition.
Oh, totally.
But I actually think it's this idea too of like that lifespan is maybe due to someone posed this question around Snowdonia actually. And was like, would you guys be running as much as you are if there were no races? And I think the pandemic answered that for a lot of us too, where it was like, no, it turns out I just really like running. And I really enjoy being outside and exploring and being out there. And so it's like this longevity question of like, well, yes, what is sustainable for you? What makes you happy? And so I'd like to come off my tangent and help like work with you to summarize kind of like from Alyssa's story and from this like joy framework, what can people do from a mental performance coaching standpoint? What can people do if they're lost right now and they're not sure how to find joy in their running? Like, how can we redirect them to take this like really interesting observation and idea and research and apply it to their athletic practice?
Yeah, I love that. So I've actually been in this position before too. So this is why I love her story. And so I think, but the first thing you could do is would try to go back, and you might have to go back a long time to remember a time when sport was fun, and to write it down and to like go into detail and to try to identify a few things like of why it was fun. And I mean, sometimes you have to maybe go back to childhood and like, what about it that made it fun? Like, was it a game, like the no pressure situation? And then try to apply one of those things into your next run or your next game, and try to purposefully inject what you considered used to be fun in sport on a daily or weekly basis. And then try to just be a little bit more self-aware of like identifying the things that make you not enjoy it. And I think like being able to name them, that's the first step in order to be able to solve the problem and to like kind of work your way through the ambiguity.
I like that so much. I think that's like really, that is a tangible thing, right? Like if you feel lost right now and you feel like you're not enjoying what you're doing, think about a time when you did. and what was going on there. It's kind of like when my athletes say, I'm tired. I'm like, okay, well, why are you tired? Like, let's ask ourselves this question a couple times and get down to like the bottom of it, because it's like we have to be a little introspective. So I like that. That's a great practice.
Well, thanks, Corinne. And this wasn't even on my teleprompter. It's just because I'm so passionate about this stuff that I love it. Okay.
I know. I'm really excited that we get to do this theme kind of throughout the year and really dig into things that you are passionate about, things that Keely are passionate about. And they sometimes overlap, but they're also like unique in the sense that like she's really focusing on like almost like women's endocrinology, like women's health broadly. In research in medical school, and then you are like so in it with sports psych and mental performance coaching, and you are doing that professionally, you know, in your coaching job and in the work that you do with like CEOs and entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah.
But it's just cool to see it come to life and us be able to pull things back to trail and ultra running and reflect on it.
It's so fun.
We're doing it, guys. That was me being like a little self-congratulatory. Blushing.
I'm here for it.
Okay, we have to end things with some society slams. Do you want to take the first one? These are just kind of silly and fun.
Okay. So how do you mentally handle the gap between what you know you're capable of and what your body is giving you on a given day? Like when the workout says go, but the legs say absolutely not. Do you push through? Do you modify, or just call it? Ooh, I like this one.
That's pertinent.
Super pertinent. And, you know, so I basically had this like yesterday. I was kind of getting back into running again after a race, and like had a kind of first little mini rest buster workout. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, cause like at first I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be fast enough or hit my splits. And I'm thinking, I'm like, Hilly, that's like not a good enough reason. Like you can just go out there and see how it goes. So this is always what I do. It's like, so I always try to like, just like observe it, like, okay, we're not feeling this. Maybe there's a little bit of mental thing. Let's see if it's physical. And then I just start it. And like, I tell myself that I'm going to try. And no matter what the results are, if it's not what as fast as I wanted, well, I'm still going to put in the effort. So first and foremost, I just try. And I feel like absolute crap, like, you know, then I cut it. You know what I mean? Like if after 10 minutes, I don't start to feel a little bit better, then I'm like, okay, we're done for today. But most of the time I just start it and then basically have to be okay with whatever result it is, knowing that I've put in the effort of what I can show up with that day, like focusing on that effort. And then just, again, self-compassion, saying this is enough.
Yeah. I am coming back. I've like talked about this a little bit here and there in the podcast. Like we did an IVF cycle and we're an hour in. So if you know, you know, and if you're new here, welcome. But I'm coming back to running. Got cleared to start running. I've been running for a couple weeks now. And my heart rate's been really high, like just high for the effort. And my breathing feels normal. I was like, is my heart rate monitor just broken? And then I like put my like fingers on my like pulse and I was like, oh no, my heart rate is going really fast right now. And part of it's just like a lot of hormones, a lot of changes in like literal like blood volume and like body volume, because you produce all these follicles to get eggs, the whole thing. It's a whole like black magic, dark science. I don't know how it works, but it does. And my heart is really high and I've been doing some workouts and I'm like, man, my effort or like my speed that I'm putting out in comparison, particularly on flats, is like, it's very noticeable. Versus uphill, you're like, well, I don't know, we're going uphill. Like I could be going so fast right now and no one knows. And I'm doing these workouts solo. So it's like, I'm not like basing this off of like someone else moving really fast and I just can't hang. And I was like, I almost quit my workout the other day because I was like, man, like I am running kind of slow, but my heart rate is really high, like 10 beats higher than it should be for like a threshold workout in general. And definitely for the speed that I was going. And I was like, you know what? I don't feel bad though. Like I don't feel like I'm working too hard. I don't feel like the effort. If I had no data, if I had zero data, I would have been like, that was a great workout. The data was telling me like, yeah, this is so-so. This is kind of a mid workout. And I was like, you know what? My body doesn't know that. My body doesn't care about that. My body just like knows that I'm like, I am going easy and then I am going hard. And when I go hard, I produce more blood lactate, and then I have to shuttle it, and then I get to do it again. And it's like my body doesn't know that I'm running a little bit slower and my heart rate's a little bit higher. It's like, are you producing millimoles of blood lactate? Are you shuttling it? Are you doing the purpose of the workout? And from an effort standpoint, it's all good. And so I think that was really important to be like, you know what? For where I'm at, for what I'm asking of my body, like this is actually great. But it does take like a reset to that, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So cut yourself some slack. I'm also a huge proponent of like sitting on rocks and crying in the woods. So like if you need Godspeed, here for it. Okay. Our final, then I was like, this has to be our final question for the day. Cause if you've been listening for an hour and you're out on a run right now, eat a snack. Like you got grams of carbs that need to go into your body. But food is not just grams of carbs. And this question is great. It says, we need a definitive trail snack power ranking. What's your top 3 mid-run snacks and what popular trail food are you putting dead last? So basically like what's a normal trail food that you're like, no, thank you. And what would be like great mid-run snacks? I mean, I have to practice with my sports nutrition. And so I tried to practice with my sports nutrition I'm like, oh, I'm running a race. I should like drink my scratch drink mix and I should eat my snacks. I should take my gels or my chews or whatever I'm doing. But my top 3 like alternative alt snacks currently, the current ranking is Albeans, whatever they're called, gummy bears or gummy worms. So good. You can get them in like a 2.5 kilo bag or something. It's well worth it. You won't regret it. Probably followed by Uncrustables. Have been a staple of some long runs recently. Also very good. Store in your freezer. You can just take one out the day before and thaw it in your fridge. It's great to go the next day. No crust. It's kind of mushy. It like, if it falls apart inside it's baggy in your pack, it doesn't make it worse. It's like, ooh, it's just like pre-mushed for you. And then my third trail snack of choice recently is really boring. It'd be like more non-alternative. I had a run with Caitlin Gerben and she pulled Oreos out of her pocket and gave me some Oreos, and that was delicious. It was worried they were a little bit stale, and they were, but it was really fun and I enjoyed it. So that's my top 3 definitive current snack choices. And then I really hate like almost all bars. Like I'm not a bars person. And I keep thinking maybe I could be a bars person and I'll buy a new bar and then I will try to eat it on trail runs and they're gross. They're all gross.
Yeah.
Never met a bar I liked. Someone slide into our DMs and let me know bars that are good for people who hate bars, because I'm striking out in the bar department, which would make my life so much easier.
Okay, so I love this question. Okay, so I'm gonna I really love baking. So I recently was in Hawaii and I went on this like awesome all-day adventure. And so yes, of course, I practice with my my sports nutrition and I do really like them. I'm a really big fan of gummies. But if I had to choose just trail snacks, like 2 homemade things, homemade like granola, and then homemade or trail mix, like that kind of stuff. Like it can have like some little chocolate pieces or not, but something that's like crunchy and savory, like with the oats and like coconut and stuff like this. And then homemade cookies. I really like them. I make them as like for a trail version, I make them super salty. So it's like, it's nice. It's just like a saltier version of like an oatmeal raisin or oatmeal chocolate chip cookie. And then coffee, if I can. Maybe not on a run, but on a bike ride. It's so good to be able to stop at a cafe and be like, all right, let's have this little latte or cortado. A little bit more difficult here in the States. Not as difficult in Europe for running to have little coffee stops. And the thing that I would just popular trail food, gels, man. Ugh.
We only eat them because we have to. Anyone who's pretending to just love gels might be a psychopath, and I would be careful. Yeah. And we're not sponsored by any gel companies right now, so come at me, gel companies.
Change my mind, please.
Do your worst. Change my mind. I can be financially swayed. I am nutrition agnostic right now. Okay. We digress. We should definitely let you guys go. I do ask that if you enjoyed this giggle and chuckle and rant, that you, wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., go leave us a 1,000,000-star review, however many you can leave, 5, I think. Leave 5 stars and share it with your friends because it does truly help people find the podcast. And until next time, we'll catch you out on the trails.